Once you've lost growth momentum, you've lost the game. So this is what Andy Ratcliffe, the CEO of Wealthfront, had to say when he was asked about the future of the fintech company. Now, unfortunately, his company runs the risk of facing the same fortune in the coming years. So, moving on. Today we propose our strategy, which is the IIE model: incorporate, innovate, and expand. We want to incorporate new changes into the product offerings that we are currently bringing. Secondly, we want to innovate and change the new features to provide greater value for customers. And thirdly, we want to further expand our market so that we can have a new line to grow our market. Now, with that being said, we're at the University of Dhaka, and today we're here with the objective of ensuring that Wealthfront can remain the market leaders can regain its market leader status by the end of year 2022. Now, let us take a look at this analysis, at the situation that drives our analysis. First of all, Wealthfront works under three key values. First of all, transparency, automation, and low cost. Now, over the years, these have worked wonders for the company. They've not only attained market leadership, they've also become one of the top Google searches in 2015 and onwards. At the same time, they had an AUM of over $5 billion, which showed that this company has the future to lead the fintech industry in the future. And it also revolved its products around strong innovations. For example, tax loss harvesting, direct indexing, or single stock diversification. Now, these were very innovative products that not only helped a lot of companies to grow, but also provided good projections for the future. However, 2017, and we see that the company is struggling. Why? First of all, a lack of human touch. Wealthfront is a high-tech company, no doubt, but it is a low-touch company as well, which is ensuring that the company is struggling to grow in the future. Now, moving on, we take a look at the competitors in the market. First of all, we look at the other fintech companies. We see that compared to Wealthfront, these companies are medium costs. And if we look at the incumbents, the big companies, they are very high cost, and they have a very low transparency in the minds of the customers. However, if we compare the two key factors that we're missing, the human touch and the growing customer base, we see that our customer base is stagnant, and we are limited to a certain market, and we are struggling to expand. At the same time, if we look at the incumbents, they have a huge target market and can easily take over our industry in a couple of years. So from this analysis, we can find that the services are becoming similar, and we're losing our competitive edge in the market. Secondly, the market is becoming very crowded. So the question is, how can Wealthfront stand out in a very competitive market? Moving on. Now, to summarize everything, we can see that we're currently focusing on B2C industries. We're looking at individuals of tech companies like Facebook and Twitter, but we're limited to these individuals only. We lack differentiation because other companies are doing exactly what we're doing, and they're doing it better than us. How? They're adding a human touch to it, and that is what research shows, that this is something that most consumers tend to prefer in the long run. Therefore, overall, we can summarize that we have a very limited growth potential, and that is what, with our solution, we tend to change.
Okay, so just to take you over our model again, the IIT model. So first, we aim to incorporate changes into our own company. We need to make some changes in terms of how we treat our customers, how exactly we're going to provide services to them, and how we're going to change our business model to support those services. Secondly, innovate. We're going to bring in some new features. We want to engage more people. We want to be able to give them greater value. And lastly, expanding is all about approaching different markets, getting more customers, different segments, as opposed to the tech-focused segment we have right now. Now, so what exactly falls under corporate? We divide our strategy into three main parts. First part is to introduce a bionic system, where we will introduce not just our automated system, but also incorporate a human touch. Secondly, we're going to introduce a mechanism for transparency. As we've seen before, transparency is a very big issue when it comes to financial advising, whether it's automated or it's personal. Transparency is a very big issue when it comes to financial investment. And lastly, we're going to alter our business model so that we can support these activities of having a bionic touch and having additional methods for transparency. Now, so again, when we talk about a bionic system, we mean human plus machine. Now, we already have an automated system which deals with investment decisions. But what we aim to do is to have additional human touch to it. Now, our main human elements would be, first of all, a real-time customer contact and investment service, where individuals can actually contact someone on our website and talk to the person and understand how the investment works and where exactly he or she can invest our money. And the automated service machine can actually help generate those investment decisions, and the individual can talk the customer through those decisions to help him understand which is best for him. We will even intend to add a video conferencing option to that mechanism, just so that if a customer wants that visual impact, wants that visual reassurance from the consumer, from the contact employee, he or she can get that visual insurance. Because a lot of times, when we talk to people, we look for visual cues to understand exactly what they're trying to say, or understand their facial expressions, whether they're cheating us or whether they're being honest. So the main issue, the main impact we want through the video conferencing is to get that little greater bit of interaction. And lastly, our focus will be, when we train our employees to give financial advice to customers, our focus will be on customer relationship building. We want to ensure that these people feel reassured and they come back to us over and over. Now, to introduce mechanisms for transparency, our first mechanism would be to give our consumers immediate feedback on investment decisions. A big issue for investment financing is when individuals don't know exactly where their money is being spent. So you want to de-address that issue by giving them an immediate feedback on every decision that is being made. And aside from that, another additional feature we'll have is a weekly finance report, as opposed to, say, annual reports that usual finance companies give. And lastly, just to ensure that the system is not exploited, you'll have a special hotline for complaints against individuals, for customers who feel that their financial advisor is not being completely honest, and that and those reviews will be reviewed by a review board. Feedback will be reviewed by a review board to ensure that these inefficiencies don't take place. Okay, so lastly, since we're going to introduce humans into our system, we need to adjust our pricing to justify the additional costs that will be incurred. So what we intend to do is we will continue our premium model, but instead of our investment range, which before it was free from $0 to $10,000, now we're going to make it free from $0 to $5,000, and we're going to introduce $0.25 per investment for the $5,000 to $10,000 range, and for investments above $10,000, we're going to introduce a 0.4% incremental profit. Our second part, innovate. Now, innovate is broken down into three main parts. First of all, we intend to introduce a mobile platform for our entire website. And the main objective of this is to make it more easily accessible to individuals, and to ensure that continuous feedback system that we wanted to provide to consumers about their investments. Our second part would be customized infographic reports to our consumers so that they can visually understand exactly where their money is being spent. And lastly is, again, another initiative to make greater interaction, which is an algorithm which will allow them to assess different investment decisions so that they can know exactly where their money is going. Mobile platform. Now, our mail mobile platform will be for on-the-go usage, and it's a simplified interface for individuals who are not exactly very tech-savvy. And the main objective of the mobile platform is, again, to give real-time updates to individuals, and this mobile app will also have a live chat feature with financial advisors. Now, our infographics and reports the main objective is better understanding. And these simplified reports will help individuals exactly understand how much profit they're making out of different investments, and This greater transparency is what we're trying to go for when we're trying to create differentiation for consumers. And now, decision algorithms. Now, the main idea here is that when you're making an investment, before in the automated system, whatever investment, the entire system decided exactly what investment you made. But we want to add an algorithm that will allow for choices. We'll narrow down the most important decision choices or the most important substitutes, investment decisions, and we'll give the consumers options and we'll tell them information about those decisions, exactly which company they're going to be investing in, what they're going to have a stake in. And the main objective of this is, again, to give them that choice, to give them that extra bit of information when we're making a decision. And this gives them greater freedom in the investment decision, and also they can also consult financial advisors.
Now, the last part of our strategy is to expand our existing customer base. As already mentioned by my teammates, the growth is hugely limited because of the limited customer base that the company currently has. And for that, the first one that we want to do is we want to move into the B2B part of the customer base. If you look at our competitors, Betterment and the other fintech companies, they have a B2C customer base and they have a B2B customer base, which we don't, which Wealthfront doesn't currently have. So we want to move into the B2B business because that is where the main value lies. These are, although these will be a limited number of clients, but their investment value is going to be huge compared to individual customers. So this is something that we want to move into. The next one is we want to engage students, something currently that we don't do. This is because even though they have very limited money to spare, our minimum investment criteria is $500. So even if they do invest that, and even if we are not charging them any money, when these people graduate, we will have customers who will be able to invest a lot more money, and we can make money out of that in the future. And lastly, we will attract tech-savvy individuals who don't work for tech companies. Currently, we have clients who have worked for Twitter and Facebook. These are tech companies. But what about tech-savvy people who work in other companies, not tech companies, non-tech companies? So we also want to attract those people. So the first one is we want to invest for services for business clients. Now, since our CEO, Andy, is already has been a venture capitalist in the past, he has links with various businesses. He has invested in businesses, some of which are very successful now. So we want to leverage those partnerships to gain these businesses, and we want to be their investment partner. Second, the whole service that we will be providing it as a software as a service platform, so that these companies won't have to make any fixed commitment to our company. This will make it easier for them to use our service. They can, as software as a service, and the payment method will be pay as you go. They will only pay for the amount of the period of time they use our service, and so they don't have to make a commitment. And this will make it easier to get more business clients on board. Moving on, we want to engage these students. As I already mentioned, they are future potential customers. So we want to heavily invest in marketing activities in university campuses to get them on board. Next, we want to create partnerships with university career advisors, and they can advise the students what they can do with their spare money. And lastly, we want to again leverage our freemium pricing, because if you have less than $5,000, we don't charge you anything for the investment that you make. And obviously, students will make low investments, and so this is a very attractive option for them. And finally, we want to attract tech-savvy individuals of non-tech companies. So for this, we want to use referral systems for our existing clients. Suppose we have a client who works at Facebook. He obviously has friends who work in other non-tech companies. So we want to use the referral program so that they will refer our service to the other employees and through the referral systems, and we can get those non-tech clients on board. The next one is we want to create a customer review system to justify the referrals. Not only will we have referrals, they can review our system on the app stores, and also on online forums. So when they go for the referrals, there will be greater credibility for our platform. And finally, we want to leverage the existing links. As I already mentioned, our CEO has been a venture capitalist, and he has been in partnership with many businesses, tech and non-tech. Again, we want to leverage that partnership to get these clients. And moving on. If you look at our implementation timeline, initially we want to have that human touch, because this is something that we are missing, and this is why we are losing out to companies such as Betterment. This is the first thing that we need to do. We need to get the human advisors on board. Next, we want to focus on the mobile app, because mobility is very important these days. If we can get the mobility on our platform, we will increase our customer base by a lot. Third, we want to have the decision algorithm that will help the customers get greater freedom in their investment decisions. Next, we want to target the tech-savvy employees of non-tech companies, as well as also expand our base in the tech companies. Fifth, we want to go for the B2B sector. After we have expanded our current market, we want to go for the B2B. And lastly, we want growth for the future, for which we will be investing to get the students on board.
So previously we have discussed how our strategies will be implemented based on the scheduling. Now we will be identifying the following KPIs to make sure we're making proper progress. Firstly, we'll be carefully monitoring our AUM as well as our number of clients, because this somehow measures our growth as well as our future potential. So we have, for our strategy that we've mentioned previously, we have identified the following risks. We have mentioned that we'll be targeting the B2B segment. But there's a problem. They could already have established relationships with their current partners. So in order to tackle them, we'll be mitigating by performing B2B marketing. We'll be creating new relations with them and trying to utilize the tech firm Silicon Valley network to ensure that we're able to sell our solutions to them. Secondly, one of the major problems of all the tech companies these days are that the services are very easily replicable. Like one day you have a new service, and the next day your competitor comes up with that service. So it's very difficult to have a different set of positioning. So for that, we will be trying to utilize the relationships that the CEO created, as well as have a different kind of positioning. So we could have a first mover positioning among these firms. So no matter if our competitors do copy our strategies, we'll still be known as the first mover for this strategy. Moving on. Based on our strategies, we have made the following projections that currently we have 5 billion worth of AUM. But since we'll be targeting new markets, especially the B2B markets, we believe by 2020, this can easily be increased by 8-fold to 40 billion. Firstly, because we're targeting students who will become future investors, and also because we're targeting employees of non-tech firms, as well as especially the B2B segment, where even if we do get a few companies, these large companies have lots of investment, so that covers up for that. And currently we have a client base of around 100,000, and we believe by the year 2022, we can increase it to 350,000. So in order to wrap up the presentation, we currently see that our company is in a situation where it has a stagnant growth potential, as well as it's facing difficulties to differentiate itself from other competitors. We believe that through our framework, it can find out new markets and utilize those opportunities and transform itself into the disruptive market, so that it can continue to serve the future customers, as well as make the best use of the current trends now. And with that, we would like to end our presentation. Thank you.
Well done, guys.
Would you mind putting back that timeline slide?
Yes, sir.
It reminds me more things than this stuff. There's a lot of things there. Right.
So,
Well, we got a lot of good innovations here. Okay, that's great. One is something I want to clarify all these things here. For example, for those item 4, other tech, non-tech companies, right? So what's the reason behind that? The industry front. Okay, they focus on tech guys like Facebook together. Why do they do that? And what's the reason behind it? What are core competence among those investments, those what are doing for these tech guys?
Okay. So initially, since he was a teacher at a university, what he got to know was these students, they actually did not seem to trust the traditional incumbent.
Why Facebook actually?
If I may answer that question, these people who work in these tech companies, they don't trust traditional financial services. They feel that these services will.
What's the only reason?
Another reason is that they do prefer the lack of personal communication. They prefer a lack of personal touch.
Am I wrong that they have some kind of option, share option deals of those?
Oh, they do. They have
so
some
what
options.
they're doing on the rebalancing the portfolio, this is the focus company, they're doing that, right? So for other employees in other companies, even they're tech guys, do they have the kinds of option that they have to be rebalanced? If not, what are the focus points?
The focus point is not necessarily the stock option, but it's also the fact that they have a large sum of money to invest. People in these tech companies, they do have stock options, and for them, we do have specialized services such as diversified stock. I'm not completely sure about the term. They have the stock option where they will invest their money over a large amount of time. But even for individuals who are in other tech sector or in other industries, we're assuming that they also have a large amount of capital. They might not necessarily have stock options, but
the service they provide will rebalance the portfolio, gradually
balance it.
the option share, buying up other shares through the system, right? It's a very automatic system doing that. So for other tech background, do they have this need?
But we kind of wanted to tap into, for example, people who already work for tech firms, like they're very used to dealing with techs, but there are also people who don't necessarily work in those tech firms, but also have a good grasp of the knowledge regarding technology. So we were wondering if you could somehow utilize that, and also day by day we're seeing that lots of disruptions are being taken place. So we're thinking that how we can jump into this disruption bandwagon and create a new set of potential customer base. This could be like a new hidden untapped market that we want to utilize.
I'll take a different lead, guys. So it's a very good presentation, well done. I did think in the last slide with regards to projections, I like how you're taking projections, but you put a $40 billion number out there. Number 6, one of your core competencies is growing your AUM base among students. You're going to have a revenue. I'd like you to tell me how you're going to navigate your revenue challenge, being a freemium focused model. The core number of your students, I will make up your 350,000, but your AUM projection will not come from the greater number. How are you going to tackle that?
Well, for example, these students, they really don't have any form of income right now, so it's just going to be like a free app for them just to try it out. Like, since a lot of the other competitors, they're not focusing on this segment, we thought that this might be a good way to differentiate ourselves. And also, secondly, these students, they're going to be getting jobs in the future, and as a result, they're going to be having savings. So from the young age, if they're used to following this trend, of saving and being accustomed to deal with an automatic company that's with financial advising, we feel that this will help them to adopt. Like when they get into Silicon Valley firms as well as the other firms, you get used to it because as of now the awareness as well as the lack of understanding is low. But if you give them a free incentive to try it out, for example, it could be like a game for them. Just check it out. They have nothing to pay for, but whether incomes are going to rise, whether it's going to rise above that threshold, they're already going to be used into it, and they're going to be this part of this ecosystem. So that'll help them not to go to other firms as well as other financial firms, and as a result, it will help. It's more like attracting future customers than giving a base.
If I may summarize, the main intention of engaging students is to create a future base of customers. Our projections are based solely on our B2B operations and the fact that we're going to handle a large sum of assets for other businesses. But engaging students is a very future prospect. It's to engage, to have a revenue stream in the future.
And also the young people that are very tech savvy, so we believe it will be easier to convince them to adopt our products.
Yeah, thank you. So part of the strength of this conference actually is the 100,000 people very good fencing industry company, high-tech company, right? That my point of view, they are quite loyal to work for. It feels to me that actually most of the focus here is to improve customer acquisition, which is actually what they actually trying to do. However, if I didn't capture wrongly, you are going to penalize that 100,000 people for the benefits that you are including for the new customers, i.e. Human advisor, right? So my question to you is, have you considered how many of that 100,000 you will be actually using, because they will need to pay for what they don't want to use, when the other competitors, they have a choice of using or not using those features?
If I may answer that question, what we decided through our analysis is that Betterment they don't have a premium policy, but what they do is they justify their higher prices with the additional human touch, the additional services. They're doing better than us because of that human touch, and they do have higher prices. Now, what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to completely abolish the freemium system. That's why we just brought down the threshold to 5,000 as opposed to 10,000. The main aim of that is that it's not completely paid, or it's not completely free, but we settled somewhere in between so that we don't necessarily lose out on our principal customers. Maybe we don't lose out on the 5,000 and 10,000 as much, and again, we have to make our pricing more competitive to sustain ourselves. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to add our services to justify those higher prices. We're trying to give them value for the higher price, so that we can actually engage more customers. So it's a balancing act. So we're trying to increase our prices, but we're hoping that the additional value will give us extra customers as well. We might lose out on a few. That is true. That is a fact of life. But it's a pros versus cons, and we decided that the higher prices are necessary in order for us to operate to the future.
So just agree. I think your slide of risk mitigation is actually quite nice. I think I would really like to see that slide.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
Right. One question regarding number 3. In your previous slide, if I can remember that, on one hand, you try to limit the option portfolios. Option, right? On the other hand, you're giving better choice, flexibility to choose, right? It seems to be
If I may clarify. Currently, it is totally automated. You have no control over the investment decision made. The algorithm chooses everything. So you don't know where money is you get to know, but after it is being invested. You don't get to know beforehand or make that decision. So with the decision algorithm, what we want to do is there are customers who want greater independence with their investment decisions. So this algorithm is basically for them. What we do is we narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3 best investment decisions, and from that they can choose. So it's not like we are limiting them, we're actually giving them more choice because whereas before they had no choice. So now we're just narrowing down the options. Recommend, yes.
These are before the decision used to be made for them. Now we're just giving them recommendations, short list of recommendations,
and then they can decide on their own.
And we could also show different criteria. For example, decision A, B, and C. A might have lower returns right now, but have a higher potential right now. So you just don't want to make the decisions directly. You just want to recommend the best ones.
And then on transparency, right? You said that you provide weekly report, right? But in cases it were actually done and they give an instant report rather than weekly, you get a respect. Financial report, I mean, in case I see that you get, it's automatic, right? Supposedly the financial position should have been immediately, 30 seconds, right? So I give them weekly report.
One of the things about this report is we get figures, right? But one of the
this is a referral to our infographics.
And more like analysis, right? Not just figures, like analysis.
Is it done? I mean, the sheet is smart, right? It has AI, machine learning, right? So like 1 week, I mean, it's still very, in this, it's just or I can't see 1 week can be a very acceptable time level for people. That's
Just one last question from me on costs. You suggest where the board was well front, right? You're pitching us a new idea. Do you know what our average cost it is to acquire a new customer?
$1,000.
Okay. What do you think is going to happen to our costs if we introduce a bionic approach as opposed to a algorithmic machine group approach?
So we've seen that even though we don't have a human touch to it, our competitors are actually introducing this and gaining more customers in the long run. So we see that a human touch is definitely a must if we want to have any chance of succeeding in the future. Now, if we add the human touch, we need to increase our costs. But then again, we are also increasing our fees from 0.25% to 0.4% to just somehow justify the additional costs. At the same time, we're targeting students who will be future customers. So we can add new customers at a lower acquisition cost as well. At the same time, if we look at, let's say, the B2B model that we're suggesting, that will eventually be cheaper because we're incorporating a large segment of the employee base of a company with one marketing campaign. So currently, even if it is $1,000, the acquisition cost with our marketing campaigns and with the acquisition of students, the overall sum will actually decrease even after adding the human touch to it. That is what our cost projection is.
We believe that this will overall lead to a greater return in the long run, like higher costs right now.
No, I don't have any more questions, guys. I think it was a good presentation as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.